Minecraft modding has evolved a lot over the years. It may seem more complicated these days with all the mod loaders and compatibility issues, but in ways it is quite easier for users to install mods and developers to create mods. But how would you go about installing mods for versions going as far back as beta, alpha, inchdev, indev, or even classic? Or more specifically, how would you make a mod for these versions? Before the mass adoption of mod loaders, most mods were just jar mods. These mods modified the source code of Minecraft and distributed only the parts they modified or added. You would then need to take this mod and extract its contents into the base game's jar file. This would effectively combine the two files, and then you were able to play your mod after launching the game as normal. This method has many downsides. Since the developers modified the source code directly, compatibility with other mods was bad. This is also more of a hassle to install and may be complex for the average user. Mod loaders solve these problems, which is why we moved on from jar modding. Mod loaders only support versions so far back though, so do we just leave these older versions and modding them in the past? Well, kind of. There was some mod loaders, but they're not maintained today and documentation's hard to come by. And most people just stuck to making jar mods anyways. Some developers decided to just make mod packs by putting their favorite mods together and making them compatible, which is a lot harder than it sounds. You have to adapt the code of the game and mods to support all of them together. If you're just developing a mod, even if it is for a mod loader, you still have to decompile the game and edit the source, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's talk about decompiling Minecraft first. Decompiling Minecraft is a lot easier than most other games. Most programs are compiled into machine code, and they are really difficult to reverse engineer, and it takes a lot of time to manually decompile. Luckily, Minecraft is coded in Java, which is compiled to bytecode instead of machine code. That bytecode is then run through an interpreter known as the Java Virtual Machine. That's why you need to install a Java runtime environment to play the game. Bytecode is quite easy to decompile. Just run it through a decompiler program and you pretty much have the entire source code with maybe a few mistakes in it. It's not quite that seamless though. Of course Mojang doesn't want anyone having a full copy of the game's source code, so they obfuscated it. That means they took away all the comments and variable and function names. This makes it hard to read the code at best and impossible to run after decompilation at worst. Luckily, the community stepped in and created something known as mappings. These can add comments to code and give understandable names to variables and functions. Mappings are still being contributed to for new and old versions of the game. Now we know how this works, but the process can still be automated. That's where MCP comes in. It's a mod coder pack made for Minecraft by Sarge, who is now a developer at Mojang. MCP contains scripts that decompile the game, deobfuscate it, recompile it, and reobfuscate your modifications for distribution. A very helpful tool for modifying Minecraft's source code. The Forge mod loader is even built off MCP. MCP isn't being maintained anymore, and the official website has been under construction for almost 8 years. MCP doesn't support newer versions, though there's a project known as MCP Reborn that continues MCP's legacy in modern Minecraft. But what about older versions? Even though there's no older versions on the MCP website, the Minecraft wiki has a page containing an archive of all the older versions. These older versions have some problems though, one being that you have to manually bring in the game and its libraries. That's alright though, it's just a small inconvenience. There's a bigger problem though. Some of the scripts are just broken and you have to go in and fix them yourself. I'm not sure if this was like this from the beginning or the archiving process broke it somehow, but anyway, you have to fix it yourself, which is a bit inconvenient. The next problem doesn't apply to everyone, but it is a bit of an inconvenience. If you're using Linux, MCP isn't distributed with a Python 2 binary, which is the version that MCP uses to run its scripts. And if you're using a modern distro, it probably won't be available to download through the package manager. The Python website doesn't have Linux binaries of Python 2 either, so you have to compile it yourself and point the scripts to the newly compiled binary. Luckily, there's an easier and more up-to-date way to set up modding for older versions. RetroMCP, now known as RetroMCP-Java, is a modification of MCP made by a group of people known as MCP hackers. As they state on their repository page, it is a long-term service patch for Minecraft. This project has support from the community, and thanks to the community's efforts, we have more versions to modify than the first MCP ever did. Even you can contribute to it. It also has a GUI tool so you don't have to use the terminal. Now that you practically have the entire source code of Minecraft in your hands, you can make whatever changes you want. You could add new content to the game, modify existing features, backport new features, make your own client even if clients kinda fell off. Or if you're feeling ambitious, make your own mod loader. Now, let's go over how to use RetroMCP to make your dreams come true. Take it away, unscripted tutorial me. Hey, thanks scripted tutorial me. I'm going to show you how to set up RetroMCP, do all the decompilation stuff, how to make your very own changes to the game, and to recompile it and distribute it. I really do feel like a tutorial YouTuber right now. Why should I even talk? I could just type in this notepad. We got a list right here of things we need to do, and the first step happens to be buying Minecraft, because you need to own Minecraft to legally use RetroMCP. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you already have that. So you want to download Java Development Kit version 8. Again, if you're watching this, you might already have it, but if you don't know what that is or what I'm talking about, you probably don't. You'll just want to go to this website here, set your Java version to 8 right here. Operating system, pick yours. Most likely you're using Windows, and then most likely you're using a 64-bit computer, and it'll be this right here. You can download this installer and run it, and it should install without any problems. Now you got to download IntelliJ, which is a good integrated development environment for working with Java. Here it is. You can hit download and get the community edition, which is free. Run the installer, and once that's done, you can continue. So now we need a project folder. This is where your mod is going to be stored. I've just created a folder here in my documents folder. You can put it on your desktop or wherever you're comfortable with. Just make sure it is in a path with no spaces, or else this will not work. So see here how it says MCP test, that is what I named it. It has no space. Then you need to download RetroMCP. Once you're on the RetroMCP GitHub, make sure you're on the right one. It should be RetroMCP-Java, which is the successor to the first RetroMCP. If you're on the wrong one, it should say that it's a public archive at the top up here. So head to the releases page, and I'll show you how to use the GUI version, the graphical user interface, but there's a command line version here. You can use the RetroMCP wiki to learn the commands and how to use this if that's more your style. But for now, we'll just use the graphical user interface because I think it's easier to learn. Once you move the RetroMCP jar you downloaded into your folder, you can go ahead and double click it and run it, and it should pop up. If it doesn't, then check you're using the right Java version by default. Look up how to set your default Java version, or look up whatever your error you're getting. Also, make sure you downloaded it from earlier and ran the installer. Right, now I'm going to go ahead and open it. Here, this is what your window should look like. And now you're going to want to select your Minecraft version. I'm just going to pick beta 1.7.3 because that's like the most popular Golden Age version. Going to select that. Oh, and by the way, these steps in this video should be quite similar to any other version. Maybe the coding part itself is going to be different because, of course, the game has changed over time, but other than that, it should be the same. Say yes to run the setup. If you're running this in an existing RetroMCP folder, say you've made your mod, you've coded it, do not change the version and confirm the setup because it will delete everything you've done. Don't ask how I know. Unrelated tip real quick, make some backups. You never know what could happen. You don't want to lose your mod. It'll download the game itself and libraries needed. As you can see, after we ran that setup, there's some new files and folders in our project folder. This is just the game itself. Minecraft is the client. Minecraft_server is, well, the server. As you can see, if I open this using an application like 7-zip, which I recommend you download, you'll need it later in the tutorial. Just go look up 7-zip and download it if you're on Windows. And as you can see, all these classes in here, they just have nonsense names because it's the obfuscation. So we're going to have to decompile these, which RetroMCP makes pretty easy. Well, click of a button easy, I guess. And here are libraries. Also remember this, these are natives. These are needed to run some of the libraries. If you're on Windows, these will be .dll files. Just remember this. And these are the rest of the libraries. They have jar files once you get deep enough and see these jars. Okay, that's really all you need to know from here. Let's try decompiling the game. But first, what if you want to decompile an existing mod along with the game? Because for some reason, your source code got deleted and the only thing you got left of it is a compiled mod. So you would want to go into your jars. You see this Minecraft.jar here. You would open it with your 7-zip or archiving platform of choice and do the same thing with your mod. Drag its contents into the Minecraft jar and then decompile it. Make sure you do it in that order. Do not decompile it first or else it won't work. I'm just going to decompile the regular game for now, as I'm assuming that's what most people will do. So press this big highlighted decompile button and it's that easy. It'll automatically apply the mappings during the decompilation process, so you don't have to worry about that. Once this is done, we will get a decompiled jar. We will get the whole source code. As you can see, it's generating folders here, the client folder right here, and the server folder. Finished successfully. If you got an error, make sure again that you don't have any spaces in your directory path. Alright, and let's take a look at this. Let's look in the client real quick. And here is the source, where we have actual names for all of our Java files. We can actually read these and make sense of them. Next step is to test it and generate our Minecraft game folder. You know, like the folder that stores your worlds and texture packs and stuff. So let's recompile real quick. You'll need to recompile every time that you want to run your mod. Then hover MCP and launch client. I'm assuming most of you will be making client mods, but I'll talk about the server stuff later. And it might take a while for sound to come in the first time because it's using a proxy, but we don't need to worry about that yet. Just create a new world. Sometimes when starting this, if you open the game, join a world too fast, it'll crash. It's kind of annoying, but you get used to it. And as you can see, we have sound back, and also this has a custom skin in the proxy it's using. Looks like this. I'm not sure why, but kind of cool. It won't be part of your mods, you don't have to worry about that. Kind of cool world here. And this is Minecraft as you should know it. We have a Minecraft_any folder. This is where the game data is stored. You might recognize this. Options are game options, texture packs, self-explanatory, statistics, saves, which is the worlds, and resources, which is, the resources. So I think that's all you need to know here. Before we move on, I do want to explain something with Minecraft and the server. So in these older versions, creating a mod for it, if you want to add custom content like a new block, mob, or item, something like that, you'll have to make your modifications on the client as well as the server. You can't just use one mod for both of them. So let's say I wanted to add, I don't know, a new type of wood. So I would have to add that in the client, give it a texture and stuff. Also add it into the server, letting the server node exist if you want to play multiplayer. If you want your mod to be single player only, then you only have to modify the client. These projects are designed for Eclipse, so sometimes it can be a hassle to set them up. So you could just open the project with the open button, but an easier thing to do is press Ctrl-Shift-A and start typing existing in here, and you'll want to hit import project from existing sources. And once you have located your project folder, find your Minecraft folder. Again, Minecraft is client and Minecraft_server server. Pick the one you want to modify and click it and hit OK. Create project from existing source, that's what we want. Project name, just leave it as Minecraft as it is, and all this is fine. Hit next again. And here there's two sources for some reason. You'll want to uncheck the one with that's spelled out source. You want to keep the SRC one. And here, libraries. This isn't all of them, but we'll have to add those manually later. So just hit next. Modules, yep, next. And here is where we add our JDK. You might have multiple versions like me. You'll want to make sure you click the one that's 1.8 or 8 or whatever it is. If I just open this main Minecraft file right here and expand these imports, And if I scroll down, you'll notice that these LWJGL, which is a library Minecraft uses for graphics and stuff, it's red. It can't find this library, which is weird since it's right in here, isn't it? Yep, see, it's right here. So why can't it not find it? Well, we have to point IntelliJ to these libraries so it can access them. So you'll want to go to File, Project Structure, Libraries, and we have these jars here. These are deobfuscated jars. Well, that's not all we need. So let's add a new Java library. In this libraries folder, select the natives folder first. This will add those DLLs I was talking about earlier. And then add, and I kind of hate to make you do this because it's kind of a pain, but right now, ignore the natives folder. We already added it. Expand all the other ones inside the libraries folder until you can see the jars in each one. I don't know if there's a better way to do it. There probably is. I haven't found it yet. So this is what we do for now. Make sure you're expanding all of these because missing just one could potentially lead the game to not run. Alright, here we go. So let's select all these blue ones, which are the jar files. Hold Control to select multiple, and go ahead and select all of them. Alright, that appears to be all of them. Let's hit OK, and OK. Now hit Apply, and OK, and with any luck, these errors should go away. And now make sure you hit Apply and close this first, but once you're done with that, you can go back and rename this. I don't know, it's just picky about the order you rename it. So before you rename it, make sure you close it first, or else the errors will come back. And we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse these imports again, since there's no problem. Now we still have to run the game, and as you can see, we need to add a run configuration. So up here, hit Edit Configurations, and add a new application. I'm just going to name it Start Client, because that's what it's doing, and our main class. So we don't want to pick any of these. We want to go to the Project tab, External Libraries, Libraries, Launch Wrapper -1.0.jar, org.mcphackers.launchwrapper, and launch. Pretty much what this is this lets RetroMCP handle the launching process of the game. Or else it's going to do some weird stuff, it might not work, and it's going to use your default, and it's just a mess. Just let this handle it. And you'll want to change your working directory. We generated this earlier in the Minecraft_any folder and the game folder contained inside, where our saves and texture packs folder was and stuff. That is the working directory. And finally, what we'll need is program arguments to point the game to the right directory and stuff and let RetroMCP know what to do. So go ahead and close that for now and open the client.launch file. 18th line, third to last line, you'll see program arguments right here. So starting with --username, you'll want to start highlighting all of this, hold shift and then scroll to move left and right, and go ahead all the way to the end, all this green text. Don't include the quotations. Go back to Edit Configurations and add this, paste it right in here, okay? Our game should run from inside IntelliJ. Single player, and you'll notice that world from earlier we created is right here. Same thing, and we got the same skin. That means you did it properly. So let's save and quit game, and let's test out if debugging features from IntelliJ works, because they are very handy. So I'm just going to do something simple like modify the title in real time. So I'm going to set a breakpoint right on it, and then make sure I start this in debug mode. I don't know, by the way, I don't know why this says Minecraft twice when the actual game, I don't know, it's weird. It works though, so we'll just leave it. I'm just going to step into one time, and you'll notice here we have a variable which is new title. Let's go ahead and set the value of that to something else. I'll just copy and paste it multiple times because I'm excited. If that manages to fit, I'll be very impressed. Now let's resume the run. And there we go. It looks like it kind of did, it looks like it did fit, kind of. Anyway, we just modified this string in real time, and if we go back, you'll notice we have not changed it. So I'm just going to remove that breakpoint. So now that this is all set up, we can actually start creating mod. And I'm going to show you how to make a client-side modification. I'm going to put the real life time in the top left corner of the screen at all times, and if we do it right, it should show the same time that's down here. So how do we go about finding where to add text to the top left? Well, I'd say the best thing to do is look if the game already does this on its own. So let's start the client. And as we can see in the menu, there's text up here in the top left. That's kind of what we want, but the thing is we're not in the game. So let's get in the game and see if we can find anything similar. That's the bug I was talking about, where if you join a world too fast, it crashes for no reason. That is nothing that we did, but it crashed anyway. Usually a good indicator is just hitting single player cancel, and if the sound works, then you're usually good to go. Alright, we're in the game. No text though. Pause menu has text, but the thing is, this pauses the game too, so that could be a problem. What about if we press F3, the debug menu will appear. There's text in the top left right here, and we can still play the game. So what if we took something there, but made it so the F3 menu doesn't have to be open for it to show? Now, that seems like a good idea. Let's see if we can find where the F3 menu draws text in the code. So I'm going to go up here to navigate and search everywhere. Now I'm going to search for just debug and ignore some of these because they're just parts of the IDE. Let's look down here in where the actual game code is. If this.minecraft.gamesettings.show debug info, that sounds like what we want. Let's go there. Alright, it took us to the GUI in-game file. So let's see if we can find what we're looking for. This is where it draws the HUD, like the health and stuff. This adds the water overlay. Ah, here it is, the debug info. This is the text that we were seeing earlier. Let's copy it and put it outside the show debug info and see if it'll appear. Alright, so now we have text even though the F3 menu isn't open. Let's try changing it to something else and see if it still stays. Alright, well this appears to be the string right here, and this must be the debug info that it was showing earlier. Let's go ahead and change this to test, or something like that. What do the rest of these values do though? We have a 2 here and a 2 here, and then one big number. Well, the 2, if we look at these other ones, the 2 stays the same in all of them, and on these next ones it changes. Which probably would make sense, because assuming that these are the same, these are probably the X positions, and then these right here are probably the Y positions, which go down so the text can display on top of itself. This big number stays the same. Anyway, we'll just leave these 2 here, because these will mean top left if they're X and Y positions. So let's see if it works still. There we go, it works. But we might have a problem though. What if we open the F3 menu? Now the test text is overlapping the F3 menu. I don't think we want that. So let's take this and move it down here into an else statement. So if it's not showing the debug info, it will display this. Let's see if that works. There we go, it still shows when it's not open. And it disappears when we open it. So that'll work. Now we need to figure out what this big decimal is. I mean, I guess it's working. We don't really have to figure it out, but I would like to. So we can use IntelliJ, and down here, if we go to declaration, it'll bring us to where this function is declared, I guess. So this is the code this function's made up of. And if we look here, this is the same thing earlier. So we have a string, X position, Y position, and our random number, which goes by the name of var4. So as you can see here, this part is still obfuscated. That's fine though. We have enough context clues to get around that thanks to these mappings of these functions. So let's see what it does. We have drawString and renderString. These are probably something to do with drawString and with shadow. I haven't really looked into it though. Let's go into this drawString and see what that var4 does. So again, same thing, declarations and usages. Oh, it just goes to renderString. And we'll look at our var4, which is the fourth variable in there. Let's go to the declaration of this one. And our var4 is used multiple times down here and right here, setting these variables. These might look familiar though. 255, 4255 values. And then below, those values are put into GL color. With this information, you've probably figured out by now that that big number is probably related to color, since 4255's red, green, blue, alpha channel, and they're passed through to a color call by OpenGL. It's kind of a weird way to do it, wouldn't you say? I don't know why they did it that way. Maybe so you had to pass less parameters. I don't know why they couldn't just... Whatever. We don't have to question it. All we know is that's the color. So I would like to change it personally. So it's a white color. Makes sense? What if we were to change it to something else? Let's convert RGB values to a decimal of the color I want. That's the green I'm looking for. Let's copy this decimal number. Go back to our code and pass that through. And let's see if our color changed. Looks good. Now we want to display the time. Now, how do we go about that? Well, your search engine is your best friend here. Looks like someone on Stack Overflow already found it out. This could work, but that's adding another library and I don't think our mod really needs it. This just looks like a bit of bloat. Yeah, I'm not sure about this calendar method. Is there anything easier? Java 8 introduces a java.time package. Get hour and get minute. Well, it seems easy enough. Let's add that in. So I'm just going to create some variables here. Hour equal local date time dot now dot get hour. Oh, it looks like we need to import it first. What? Okay, well that's cool. There we go, we got our hour. Let's do the same thing for minute. And there we go, we have our hour and minute. Let's just add this here, hour. I'm gonna append the string, gonna add a colon for formatting and add the minute after. Let's run it and see if that works. I mean, it kind of worked. It looks a little bit weird, wouldn't you say? I mean, why is the hour a 20 and the minute is just a 2? Well, I know why. If you convert the clock at the bottom to military time, it would be 20:02. And the reason there's no 0 before the 2 is because we didn't tell it to format it like that. So let's fix that. Personally, I prefer AM PM time, so let's do it like that first. I'm just going to add a string here called AM PM. Yes, I'm going to use string case in Java, whatever. I'll just set it to AM first because that will take priority. And then if hour is greater than 12, we will set the hour to equal itself, but minus 12, which if our hour is at 20, that's greater than 12. If we minus 12 off of that, it will be 8 again. And then AM PM. Also, that will then be PM time, so we'll set that to PM. And now let's format the minute properly too. So I'm going to add a string and just call it extra 0, because I don't know what else to call it. Just make an empty string right now. If minute is less than 10, extra 0 will equal a extra 0. So our hour should be right. Minute, let's go ahead and add in that extra 0. And add a space here to add our AM PM. Looks a little weird, should work though. 8:04 p.m. looks exactly like the clock on my computer. Let's just run a test real quick. Alright, set the time to 3 a.m. And look at that, it shows 3 a.m. now. Our mod is now completed. Alright, so we are done with IntelliJ now. You can close out of it and go back to RetroMCP. Give it one last recompile. Watch the client from here just to test everything. Yep, our modification is still here. Let's save and quit. Now we give it one last recompile because I really want it to work. And then re-obfuscate it. This makes it legal to distribute and build. So we'll create your very own jar file. If we go back in here, you'll notice we have a new folder, a build folder. It contains our client and server, even though I didn't modify the server, so we can just ignore that for now. Let's rename this to IRL clock mod. Okay, and now if we open this with our 7-zip or extracting program, we have one class, which happens to be the one we modified, which is the GUI in-game class. So we can distribute this now, send it out to people, and I'm just going to go over how to install this real quick. I do not recommend using the normal Minecraft launcher, like the official one, because they made it so whenever you modify a jar, it'll check before you run the game and then fix it if it notices anything wrong, deleting our mod. That's kind of a hassle nowadays to use. It's a video in itself I might make in the future on how to make proper mods for that, but for now I'm going to show you how to use the Prism launcher, which is based off multi-MC, so if you're using multi-MC it should work the same. You can add a new instance, pick your version, make sure you check your corresponding box. Mine's beta, so I'll check that. Scroll down, beta 1.7.3, here it is, hit OK. Right click it, edit it, hit add to minecraft.jar. Go to your project folder, go to your build folder inside, and double click this so you can add that to your jar. Launch it and add your Microsoft account. Our game is open outside of RetroMCP through the Prism launcher. Let's hit single player, create a new world, and success! Our mod is here. As you can see, our skin is no longer the development skin, and we are running it outside of RetroMCP, and this is the distributed version. Alright, that's all I have to show you. Now back to you, scripted me. Thanks, unscripted tutorial me. I hope that I lowered the barrier to entry by showing people how to use this tool, but the credit shouldn't go to me. It should go to the community that made this possible. I hope to see some cool mods from the Golden Age community along with what we already have. Thanks for sticking around to the end.